poet, baby.
I wish I was Peter Pan.
Steve is here and it's begun. Steve is here and we're having fun. Steve is here and it's begun. Steve is here and we're having fun. Yeah, we're in the sun. We're in the sun, yeah, we're having fun. We're having fun. Yeah, Steve is here. Yeah, Steve is here. Yeah, Steve is here. Yeah, Steve is here.
Yes, we are definitely here. Another show planned for you today. We'll talk to Kelvin Ramsey about the great basketball times in Toledo, Ohio. We'll talk to the voice of Steel Pulse, David Hines. But first, we got to start with the man, the myth, the legend, known as Wilt Chamberlain. If you ever been to a barbershop, you probably heard a conversation that went something like this.
The greatest game last night.
Yeah, LeBron's something else.
Yeah, greatest of all time.
I mean, sure. After Jordan.
What'd you say?
Said LeBron's the greatest player of all time. After Jordan.
Shots fired. It's not Michael, but you're both wrong. No, it's not LeBron. As great as the numbers are, it's Wilt. And I'm here to tell you the numbers don't lie. School's open. I'm going to give you the only man to score 100 points in a game and debunk a lot of the myths that you may had about Wilt Chamberlain through the people that knew him best. The great Bill Russell. We'll start there.
He thought, and rightfully so, that he was the greatest basketball player that ever lived.
Physically, he was still the most imposing physical player that ever played this league, period. There's no one that's come close to him in terms of just physical prowess.
And as athletic as any man who ever walked the earth. You try guarding that on a basketball court sometime.
This was more than just some big guy who dunked the basketball and ran up and down the court. This was a true athlete, and his physical prowess was unbelievable.
He's going to the basket.
See, Wilt was bigger than you.
Boy, Wilt blocked that nicely. Wilt playing another tremendous
Faster
game.
than you.
Fast. The Globetrotters are here and by jumping in. Great play for the big man.
Great defense.
And could jump higher than you.
Tremendous ball handling and a tremendous demonstration of speed and ability.
He could start the break.
And it's just hard for people to fathom what we talk about when we say what he did. He did things that just defy description. I can remember plays that he made that when I would talk about him, people said, no, he couldn't have done that. And I'm telling you, he was just a great, great basketball player.
Here comes Boston. But
Just
Chamberlain
the thought
keeps the pressure on.
of a 7'1" guy starting to break.
For the Eastern All-Stars is Wilt
Almost
Chamberlain
unheard
the
of.
rebound. Wilt sort of toying with
Even
the
today.
opposition. West leads by 4, 85.
Wilt has records that will never be broken. Even today, the only man to score 100 points in a game without a three-point line.
Away from Bowman.
Chamberlain again underneath.
The only center
Great
to
shot
lead
by
the league in
Chamberlain.
assists.
By the fact that he led the league in assists later on, showed he could pass the basketball. So Wilt had all the tools. He didn't display them all the time because he was asked to do other things.
He can hurt you with assists like that also, playing the post.
That was a
Not to mention the fact
Wilt Chamberlain, most
that
valuable
he once
player
had
in the National
55
Basketball
rebounds
Association
in a single
Obviously,
game.
His legend
Let that marinate.
remains across the whole league. I'm glad the three-point line wasn't around for him. He would have figured that out probably too.
And for those of you who thought he couldn't shoot,
I'm glad I played in this era. Let's put it that way.
Wilt Chamberlain.
the turnaround jump shot was his patented move.
And in she goes.
Chamberlain charges and shoots outside. Good.
There's somebody going through the middle. Nobody goes. Wilt takes it in himself. Puts it in there.
Wilt did not go in and bump and dislodge people. That was not his game. And if you remember, the main point is 60% or more of Wilt's shots came on fadeaways.
So contrary to popular belief that Chamberlain liked to run over you, he would rather shoot the ball over you. And he did it at a high clip. He shot 54% from the field for his entire career.
Good defense. That fall-away jumper just cannot be stopped. Beautiful.
When this giant walks out on the floor, the 76ers automatically have a great number.
And if you want to question his competitive fires, you might want to think about that one again.
I think with his competitive spirit that he had, that's the one thing about Wilt. Wilt did not like to lose. He always wanted to win. So if he'd have been 6'4", 6'5", or 6'6", I think he would have had the determination. He probably would have had more of that killer instinct also to dunk the ball and destroy people. Because of his size, I think he really held back most of the time and didn't try to dominate with his physical body. And I thought, quite frankly, that he was more of a finesse player than a power player. And yet, when he did turn on the power and exert that physical presence, he was unstoppable.
Let's just hear it from Wilt himself.
As great as you were because of the time, or would you be as great now? I mean, there's 15 7-footers now. There were 3 in your era.
Well, I disagree with you there. I think it was a lot of big guys when I played. Guys who weighed more than I did. A few guys taller than I was. A lot of 7-footers. But today the guys are much more athletic. But I think sometimes when you have all that going for you in the body, how is your head?
And that was a question that went unanswered night after night.
You know, Wilt, I think I'm the only guy on this planet that knows how really good you are. Because he was smart on top of everything else. He was the smartest guy I played against.
As Wilt destroyed Simmons night after night.
Chamberlain gets the ball as double team, puts it in nonetheless.
Chamberlain, boxed in and all, still gets the shot away.
Chamberlain banks it in.
It's so funny how in today's modern NBA, we talk about Kevin Durant and how unstoppable this turnaround was. But where do you think he got it from?
Chamberlain scores.
It's kind of Kevin Durant-ish. Well, yeah, look how tall he is. Of course, he just shoots over everybody.
Puts it up, Wilt knocks it
And
down.
did I mention his ability to block shots and a totally dominated game from the defensive end?
Russell, blocked by Chamberlain. A great block by Chamberlain. 2 great plays by Wilt Chamberlain.
Now let's watch his defense.
He's going to challenge Wilt. He does. Wilt fly swats it right down his throat.
Jumps it up over Wilt. Wilt blocks it. That's 4 block shots for Chamberlain. Chamberlain blocked it. Great play by Chamberlain. Chamberlain gets the ball. Nice play.
Trying to get it up over Chamberlain. He drives it down his throat.
The Heinz, and he's deep. Blocked by Chamberlain.
He switches to Krebs, blocks the shot.
Sam Jones. Good block by Chamberlain.
It's a 3-inch height advantage. Chamberlain got just enough of it.
Havlicek blocked, and Chamberlain has the rebound.
Jonah drive over Chamberlain. Wilt slaps it out of there. Good block by Chamberlain. Penetrates, gives to Jackson. Chamberlain blocks it.
Put it up again. Chamberlain slaps it out. That's 7 times Wilt's blocked shots tonight.
And then on Wilt, puts it up. Wilt knocks it down.
Oscar working. Chamberlain spoiled it. Good defensive play by Wilt.
There he puts it up.
Over Chamberlain. Wilt slaps it out of there.
So let's recap everything we've been talking about. He can score at will. He scored the most points than anybody has ever scored in a basketball game. He's had 55 rebounds in the game. The only center to lead the NBA in assists. And he blocks shots like a one-man wrecking machine. It's clear to me who the greatest is. By now, it should be to you two. Wilt Chamberlain, the greatest of all time. Whether it's sports or music, it's always entertaining. Welcome to the Steve Taylor Show. We all know about Bob Marley and the One Love Experience. We know Bob was an artist that changed music. But what you don't know is that Bob personally anointed Still Pulse the first band of reggae. I had a chance to catch up with these guys in Huber Heights, Ohio. Listen to the show, kind of hang out with the guys, and talk to one of the most anemic people in all of reggae music.
I'm Steel Pulse and I don't camouflage. Camouflage! I don't camouflage.
Steel Pulse is a Grammy Award-winning artist. And I asked David Hines, where did it all start?
Growing up in Birmingham was a tall order. We are recognized as the first generations of blacks born in the United Kingdom. Our parents were colonized from the British Caribbean, places like Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, St. Vincent, Grenada, all those kind of places. And so my parents came over in the 50s, and they came over with a very, almost like with a walking on eggshell attitude because of the racism they were facing, and also being on foreign turf, not being familiar with the whole scene of things. So everybody sort of was like put in different regions, so to speak, but we had our own community. Certain Caribbean islands were dispatched to certain parts of Britain, but most of the Jamaicans were dispatched to places like Birmingham, where I grew up in, and also London, so to speak. So we, with our own communities, had our own language, had our own, earliest forms of social media as far as newspapers and things that was about things happening in Jamaica. And, obviously the food, the language, the culture. So it kept me very much isolated for quite a long time.
So I asked him, what was it like growing up?
My mom always thought I was like crazy or, above the norm, so to speak, compared to, my siblings. But I think my parents always thought there was something special about me as far as being different from the others, where I was isolated by them also when it came to my education. If they saw a certain potential in me, the way I sort of perceived things, that they oftentimes had me stay in and do homework longer than the others, and schoolwork longer than
Had
the
to
others.
ask about the first guitar.
My first guitar, she promised me if I did exceptionally well, she would get me one, and she did. Same with my bike. If I did well in school, I get a bike, and that's how we were raised, basically.
Which brought us to the many travels.
I've been quite a few places. I've spent, as far as living, I'm currently knocking around the French Caribbean. But I've spent time where I've spent several months in, say, Jamaica, although I wasn't born there. And I'm often in the United States. So when it comes to really sticking around in a particular country for a substantial amount of time to absorb the culture and the political trappings of the country, those are the three main countries where I've really sat down and said, so that's what you're about, kind of thing.
His answer to what motivates him just might surprise you.
I love symmetrical type patterns. Arrows mean a lot to me when I see them in patterns. It shows direction, obviously, power, symmetry, order, projection, all these things is significant for me when it comes to my life. I had a prison uniform, beige colored, with red arrows, ball and chain, the whole thing. It was like a very strength-boarding presentation for me. Arrows are significant in my life, have been significant in my life.
One love, and thanks to David Hines of Steel Pulse. Guest today is Kelvin Ramsey, Pastor Kelvin Ramsey. Man, let's start with the beginning, man.
Macomber High School, man. Let's talk about that era. That era of basketball in the city of Toledo has to be the greatest era of high school basketball.
It's a great debate. In fact, on Facebook, we got a page about the 70s and 80s, and it's a great debate which era was the best. And I think overall, when you look at all the eras, we had probably the most talented. I mean,
we can kill that. I'm here to tell you. We had the greatest.
I mean, it was unbelievable. You know, Terry Crosby, Truman Claytor.
Shout out to Terry Crosby.
My man. All of them. In fact, Truman and Terry were a year ahead of me. They were my benchmark. I'm saying, if I can play with Terry Crosby and Truman Claytor, I'm in there. Because them guys was phenomenal. Right. I don't know if you ever remember, some of Toledo will remember this, the game between the DeVilbiss and Toledo Scott at the Scott Fieldhouse when Terry Crosby hit 38 and Truman had 40. Steve, wait a minute. I'm in the stands watching. And them guys is going off. And then all the people look at me and say, you next.
Right.
you next.
Hey, let's not get it twisted. This brother was bringing it. This brother was bringing it.
Hey, but that let me know, if you're going to play, if you can't play with these guys, you ain't going to never be, you'll be average. Beat them and you'll be there. Yeah. And I happened to beat them both the same year.
See. Yeah, you had a lot. Because then the Scott Bulldogs was the legendary Ben. I mean, he was a living legend.
Yes.
Ben Williams, a living legend.
Yes.
You know, and we lived that.
Yeah.
You know, and you had to deal with that.
I did. And I get this, I almost went to Scott because I'm in the Scott district.
Right.
Yeah. And
how'd that happen?
I'm playing with Donald at Robinson. Truman was ahead of me. I got cut my first 3 years playing basketball.
Look, you got to tell me, man. You got to tell me the guy who cut Kelvin Ramsey.
Let me tell you, in fact, you're going to get a kick out of this. His name is Dickie Jones, Richard Jones. Richard Jones, we both got inducted into the Toledo Hall of Fame together. And I told Dickie, I said, you're the only one who ever cut me before I played. Yeah, and he the one that told me to come out and play.
Yeah, we need to do something about his certificate.
He was a great coach, man. He was a great coach. I couldn't play because I was too little, and I had them bad tennis shoes. I'm sliding all over the place. Right. So he did the right thing.
Right.
But come the 8th grade year, I'm playing with Donald Collins, and of course I'm in Scott District, but I get recruited from Macomber, and so. Believe you remember when Toledo Scott and Libby used to be the rivals?
Yes.
That was the big rival. In fact, my brother played for Scott.
Yes.
When Scott and Libby was the rival.
Right. But Bunk Adams.
Bunk Adams. But when I went to Macomber, it switched. It became Macomber against Scott.
Well, you had quite a team over there.
We did. Curtis Jewell, Rodney Everidge.
That dude could run, man.
And rebound like a crazy man. He was only 6'2", averaging 14 rebounds a game, man. He eat glass, man. And then you had Rodney Everidge and Perry Hobson, Dennis Hobson, brother.
Right.
We was a thing. The only reason we didn't win the state is because John Flowers left us.
Yeah, because John Flowers was like 6'4", but he walked around like
Willis Reed.
Oh my goodness, dude was huge.
John was a beast.
Yeah, and he ended up going to Southview, didn't
he? Yeah, and that's a whole nother story. Don't want to get into that. But if we'd have kept John, we'd have been the first state champion here in Toledo. No doubt.
Yeah.
We lost 2 games my senior years, both of them to Scott.
The legendary Scott Bulldogs, man. Because and that was the dog fight in the City League at that time.
Yeah.
Was amazing. It's like, man, you had the DeVilbiss, you had Scott,
Rogers.
You had Rogers. They had a guy out there that played a little bit of basketball.
Kim Leonard and Kenny Cunningham.
See,
you got to be a historian to know that them guys were unbelievable. Kim Leonard could dunk in boots. I'm talking about boots, man. I ain't talking about no regular tennis shoes. We used to work together. He would dunk in boots. See. Unbelievable athlete.
The grandest time in high school.
Man, I tell you. And watch this, Steve. Every game you played, the stands was full. I don't care if you played Bowser. I don't care if you played Waite. Every team had a good player. So if you came out there and dogged it, you was gonna get beat. You was gonna get beat. Because you talking about Lee Lydell at St. Francis, them guys was just they could play some ball, man.
They could go.
And so
you had to bring him out at Rogers,
yes, sir.
Ronald Johnson.
Yes, sir. David Osby at Libby. Johnny Backus at Liberty.
Oh my goodness, man! You know that was the grand time of basketball. That's when you came in with a city champion, you was a champion.
Yeah. And the only reason we didn't play for the championship because they had red division, blue division. Us and Scott was in the red division. We was the best 2 teams, but we never got to play for the city.
And that
was messed up.
Yeah, boy. Yeah, it was. So you end up choosing Ohio State. You go to Ohio State, and but there was a question mark. There was a possibility you go to Michigan State. Talk about that.
Yes. In fact, the 3 schools that was on my last list was Ohio State, Michigan State, and believe it or not, Toledo. I wanted to go to Toledo.
Wow.
I did. I wanted to change the culture of we know how it was.
Right.
Back
Right.
then.
Oh boy.
So I'm thinking, let me go here, change the culture. The only reason I couldn't go is because I could not relate to Coach Nichols. Great coach. And I'm not talking about he was a great coach, but as far as relating, I couldn't relate to him. Yeah. And he was nervous. He was nervous around. So I couldn't go there. I wanted to go to Michigan State. But I'm in Ohio, so I thought I better not go to a Michigan school in Ohio.
Great choice.
Although I love Judd Heathcote, and if I knew Magic was going, I probably would have went anyway.
Wow. Just think about that team for a moment. So we're going to come back. We're going to talk about those Ohio State years, and we're going to talk about the NBA years. We got Kelvin Ramsey from the NBA to the pulpit.
Next time on the Steve Taylor Show, how good was Pistol Pete Maravich? An exclusive with Toledo's boxing champion, Albert Bell, and we'll finish our conversation with Kelvin Ramsey.
Sesame, here comes Rastaman. Abacadabra, catch me.